who have never been servers don't get it, but in most cases, 20% is right, but not always.
If your server makes mistakes or seems, a little distracted, you should tip them more.
If you're not planning on tipping, I need you to say it with your chest the moment your ass hits the seat. Not after I've given you 27 Diet Cokes as if it's the goddamn elixir of youth, my emotional labor, and the performance of a lifetime. I need you to announce it as if it's a food allergy. Like, hey, I'm allergic to basic human decency, so I won't be tipping today. Great, thank you. I will now proceed with the enthusiasm of a goddamn DMV employee.
Like, oh, you want a bowl of lemons? Cool, I want to pay my rent this month, but here we are.
And if your idea of generosity is 10% and like a Bible verse or like a Bible pamphlet or those comic Bible book things, just know that Jesus absolutely would have tipped minimum 25%. Minimum, baby.
Tipping culture in the US has gotten out of hand, and it's time we talk about it. Right now, people seem to fall into two distinct camps on this issue. One group believes tipping is simply something you have to do, whether you like it or not, because service workers rely heavily on those tips to make ends meet. On the second side, some people argue, hold on, tipping is meant to be optional. It shouldn't be something that is expected after someone has already paid for the service. That makes sense. So today we're going to talk and look at both sides of this debate and let you decide which perspective makes the most sense for you. Okay, so now let's get started.
What do you mean normalize asking people why they didn't tip you, or asking for a tip, holding your hand out, just expecting money? I'm sorry, but if you work at a restaurant, that is what it is. Like, it's a tip. It's not a payment. It's not a required payment. I worked at a restaurant for many years, and yeah, it happens sometimes, but you know what I actually want to normalize is asking restaurant owners to pay people. How do they still get away in 2025 with paying people? In Alabama, the minimum wage when I was a server was like $2 an hour, and I don't think it's changed. That's crazy. $2 an hour. And yeah, they're supposed to make up for minimum wage if you didn't make it with your tips, but that still only brings it to $7.25 an hour. That is ridiculous, because if they can pay their cooks like a lot of money, a lot of those cooks make so much money, and they literally just walked out of a jail and walked into that restaurant and got a job. The servers are the face of the restaurant. The servers are the ones who are making sure your freaking customers are happy, even if the cooks did mess up their food. Server has to put on a smiley face and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, and beg and plead with them to go back and get it fixed and whatever. So the servers are the people who keep your business running. How come we can't normalize paying them for that? How come everybody can't get paid based off of their skill instead of expecting a customer to tip? Tips should be the icing on the cake. They should not be expected. Like, if you just do your job, you get paid your wage. If you go above and beyond, then you get a tip for that, maybe. But if you don't, you should at least still be able to pay your bills. So it's on the restaurant. It's not on the people going out to eat. I always tip great because I was a server. I know how it feels. Like, it's so exciting to get that big tip, even if the check was small. But not everybody knows that. Not everybody was taught that way, and if you didn't work in the industry, you don't feel the same way about it as you do if you did work there. So I'm just saying, go to the owner of the restaurant when you're working somewhere. And this whole tip sharing bull crap, I don't think that's fair either. I quit working in a restaurant when they started doing that, because we used to keep notes of how much we made, and I was like 16, 17 years old, and I was making $1,000 or more a week when all these people that had been there for years could not even get close to that. And they're like, what are you doing different? I was like, I'm doing my damn job and then more. Like, people like me. So I shouldn't have to share that with the guy that's in the smoke room the whole time, asking somebody to go refill his drinks and get this and that, and then he'll give them a little. No, I shouldn't have to share anything with them. Anyways, that rant went longer than I wanted it to, but we need to figure out, y'all, whoever's still working in restaurants needs to figure out a way to change the law. I don't know how that works, but maybe y'all could change it to where you actually get paid to work there.
For those who may not be aware, there's a loophole in the system, and many restaurants are taking full advantage of it. It's called a minimum wage, a wage that's actually lower than the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour in many states. Businesses in the service industry are legally allowed to pay their employees as little as $2 an hour. as long as they can prove those workers receive tip to make up the difference. Now I call it a loophole because the system wasn't originally designed for restaurants to exploit their employees. The minimum wage was meant for student learners, full-time students working part-time jobs, and individuals with mental or physical disabilities. But over time, it's become common practice for restaurants to pay all of their staff with this lower wage. Because why they have to raise the wages when they can, you can pass that burden on to customers and have your servers rely on tips just to get by.
Okay, I feel like I see this stuff all the time and I want to clear up the confusion. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that don't understand why restaurants can't pay their servers a livable wage and why tipping culture is a thing in America. The biggest reason why restaurants can't pay servers a livable wage is because of low profit margins. In a restaurant, prices of food are generally very reasonable. That is because the consumer does not want to pay $20 to $30 for a burger. So say a restaurant spends $10 for all the ingredients for a burger, they charge you $15. It's a low profit margin. Restaurants work off of consistency and the quantity of what is being sold, not the amount of what individually is being sold. So if restaurants paid a livable wage to their servers, your food would cost a hell of a lot more. Because restaurants thrive off of consistency and quantity, they have to have a lot of people on deck at one time. Take a busy Saturday night. You have 4 in the kitchen, 4 or 5 out front. Say the restaurant is paying everybody like $15 an hour, which I think is New York's minimum wage or close to it. That restaurant's paying out $150 an hour just in labor. Food is really expensive nowadays. The utilities to upkeep a restaurant are insane. Not to mention, if tipping culture disappeared, your service would go to crap. Because 99% of servers work their butt off for the tip. And we know it's not always guaranteed, but it's nice to know that the possibility of something nice is there. Because as servers, we're doing you a service. You chose to come out to be served. That is our job. Tips aren't expected, but they're appreciated, and they're also seen as a thank you for taking care of me. Also, if tipping culture went away, nobody would want to be servers, so that would hurt restaurants so much as well. I mean, there would probably literally be no servers. So if tipping culture went away for restaurants, you would be stuck with McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Arby's, low-end food with little to no service that is quick. That's what you would have. Hopefully that all makes sense.
So let's begin with her claim. If people stop tipping, no one would want to be a server anymore. But that's not only the reality. There is an alternative, a world where tipping isn't expected, and restaurants pay fair, livable wages. In fact, that world already exists. So this is very common in most of the Asian countries and like some of the European countries. So take Japan for example. Tipping there is actually considered rude, yet the quality of service is excellent. Now let's look at parts of Europe. Restaurants pay their staff well and servers still do their jobs. Customers are satisfied and the business still turns a profit. And many of these countries are economically poorer than the United States. So if they can manage it, surely the richest country in the world can too. In fact, there are already 16 states in the US that have abolished the minimum wage entirely. Restaurants in those states pay their servers a proper wage. And guess what? People aren't complaining about food being too expensive. Business goes on as usual. What concerns me is that people like the women in the video normalize this flawed system. Even in high-end restaurants where the profit margins are enormous, Many staff are still underpaid, and somehow they still accept it because they've been conditioned to believe that if you work in a restaurant, it's your job to earn more money from tips, not the restaurant responsibility to pay you fairly. That mindset is what truly dangerous for both the employees and the customers.
The whole tipping thing in the US has just gotten out of control. Like, I just went through the drive-thru at Burgerville, and when I paid, she stuck the thing out and asked me if I wanted a tip. Do I want to tip you for me driving through the drive-thru and you doing your job? And as someone who used to work in fast food, it's not that hard of a job, I have to say. And why would I tip you when you haven't even given me my bag of food yet? I don't even know if my order's correct. I don't know if everything's in the bag.
Y'all, I'm so fucking tired of this new bullshit that restaurants are pulling these days. Like, I am just so fucking tired of this shit. Like, when I'm ordering food for pickup and I submit the order online, I go online, pick what I want, submit the order myself, and then I go to the restaurant and pick up my food. Why the fuck are you adding a automatic 20% tip on my bill? For what? Tip for what? For someone to bring my food from the kitchen to the counter and hand it to me? Like, what the fuck? I did all the work myself. I went online, I ordered the food myself, I came to pick it up. All you had to do is bring the fucking food to the front desk to hand it to me. What the fuck am I tipping you for? Like, I'm all for tips, you know, when you go to a restaurant, you sit down, someone is serving you, they bring you their food, you know, tip them. No problem. But why the fuck am I having to tip someone who absolutely did nothing? Like, the part where they bring the food out, like, the restaurant should be paying them for that shit. Why the fuck am I paying you for? Like, especially when they add this without, like, notifying you or, like, giving you an option. They just automatically add it on there. Why? I am so sick of this new, like, tipping culture in America. This is insane. Like, we need to stop. Literally, like, we need to stop. What the fuck?
So I just picked up takeout for myself. I already paid $27 for one meal. You didn't bring it to my table. You didn't refill my drink. All you did was tie a plastic bag together, spun the damn iPad around, and you're asking for a 25% tip. I am so sick of this tip culture and this trend. It is ridiculous. And even if I wanted to go get what I needed to prepare a meal, there's self-checkout. Self-checkout used to be an option. Now it's the only fucking open lane. No cashier, no bagger, just a blinking screen and a damn 8-inch platform to stack $250 worth of groceries on, where if you make the wrong move, half of it falls to the floor. Could we please get some cashiers and baggers back? It used to be a nice little entry-level job, you know, something for kids during the summer at least, or maybe something, you know, you just want to get your foot in the door to kind of work your way up, or just a part-time job as some supplemental income, right?
As its core, tipping was meant to be a way to show appreciation, a small thank you for great service. But these days, it feels like everyone expects an extra tip. Not just in restaurants, but even in places where tipping traditionally didn't exist. That's part why we're seeing what people are calling tip fatigue. People are simply tired of being asked to tip everywhere. You go to self-checkout kiosks and suddenly a screen pops up asking for a tip. But who exactly am I tipping? Machine? I scan the items, bagged them, and paid all by myself, but I still need to check it. I still need to tip for it. What? It's a self-checkout. The whole point is that no one helped me, so why am I being asked to tip? And to be honest, I think the whole idea of being told what percentage to tip, 18%, 20, even 25% is getting out of hand. Let me give you an example. If I order a $200 bottle of wine at a restaurant, and someone else orders a 100 bottle, or should I tip twice as much? Will we both receive the exact same level of service? Tipping was supposed to reflect the quality of service, not the price of what you order. Otherwise, those who spend more unfairly penalized, not for bad service, but just for spending more.
I have a controversial opinion, and I know you're going to come for me, but I'm going to give it anyway because everyone is so sensitive about tipping culture in the US. But my take is if your server makes mistakes or seems, a little distracted, you should tip them more. Hear me out. They're most likely having a bad day, right? They're people too. And can you imagine if you went to your corporate job and you made a mistake and you forgot to do something and you were just kind of off, your boss came to you at the end of the day and said, well, you're not getting paid. So I think, servers deserve some amount of grace and kindness. And if they're having a bad day, there could be a million things going on in their life. They could be going through a breakup, just gotten a bad health diagnosis, who knows? But don't give them a 0 tip because they made a few mistakes.
But here's the reality of working in the service industry. Your personal life, as important as it is, doesn't change the expectations at work. And when you're on the job, the focus is on delivering in good service, consistently, and with a positive attitude. It may sound hard, but customers don't come in to hear what you are going through. They are just there for the service. Think of tips the way we think of performance-based bonuses in sales jobs. You might have a base salary, but your bonus depends on your performance, how many sales you close, whether you hit your targets or not. You now imagine going to your boss and say, I didn't meet my goal this month, but I have had a top time person personally. Can I still get my bonus? In more workplaces, that's not how it works. If the target wasn't met, the bonus isn't given. It's similar with tipping. If the service was poor, personal struggles aside, customers may choose not to leave a tip. Not because they are cruel, but because the service didn't meet their expectation.
I've been seeing a ton of videos of people giving their opinions about what we should be tipping servers, and I have an opinion. I always have an opinion. And I think that some people might not agree with it, but I'm gonna give it anyway. And I was a waitress, so my opinion has merit. I wasn't very good. If you've never been a server before, it's hard. It's a really hard job. I don't think that you always...
Yes, working in the service industry is hard, but many other jobs are also difficult as well. And those workers don't even get tips. So people still choose to do those jobs. So I don't believe that we should base the idea of tipping solely on how hard job is. That is not a strong argument, in my opinion.
Should be tipping 20%. Sometimes you can get away with tipping less. Sometimes you should be tipping more. I think the biggest factor that contributes to how much you should tip is how long were you there. In most cases, 20% is right, but not always. If you want to hear about the bane of my existence when I was a waitress, it's the fact that we had a really nice patio. And people would like to just go get a spot on the patio and order drinks. That's fine. Totally fine. What's not fine is when you're there for hours on end. There was one time that these two ladies came in, they sat in my section on the patio for my entire shift. Now, if you know how it works being a server, you have a specific section and those are the only tables that you're going to work that day. So the faster you get people in and out, the more people you see, the more tips you get. So if somebody is taking up one of your tables for the entire day, you can't see anybody else, you can't get any more tips. We didn't have any kind of policy for how long people could stay, so as long as the restaurant was open, they could stay. They both ordered 2 drinks the entire time, and they tipped me 20% on those 2 drinks. Absolutely not! No! Jail. That's actually absurd. Maybe people who have never been servers don't get it, but if you were gonna take up a server's table for their entire shift for hours on end, you need to tip way more than 20%. First of all, don't do that. If you're going to do that, go to a place where you order up at a bar, not where somebody's serving you, because you're actually ruining their workday.
I've always found it interesting. Many servers are quick to criticize customers who don't tip, but rarely show the same frustration toward their employers, who are the ones actually making them depend on tips instead of paying fair wages for them. Why do we blame the customer when it is the companies creating a system that leaves the workers underpaid and struggling with their own life. That is just my personal view. I believe employers should, in fact, must be required to pay their staff a decent wage so that they can live on. And I believe they can. If Washington State can do it, so can Alabama. Just saying. Well, I'd love to hear what you think. What's your take on this topic and what do you think about the clothes we looked at today? Let's continue the conversation in the comment section below. Either way, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video, and I see you in the next video. Bye. So don't forget to give me a subscription right down here, please. Thank you very much.